Hello everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Express with Ease segment on View TV by Vijay Bhumi. It's a special weekly episodic segment where we discuss about topics of great importance and that require immediate attention with students. Let me first introduce our panelists for this session. We have with us Harsh Shah from Cygnus World School and we have Shivani Srinivasan from Lalaji Memorial Omega International School. Welcome guys. Thanks for joining for today's panel discussion. So today we are going to discuss about on a wonderful topic that is women in combat roles in armed forces. So let me first explain about what exactly is combat roles. Combat roles are the roles where the soldiers endanger their lives and have been trained to engage in combat and to harm the enemy in operational contact, like going in the war field directly. In India, women officers have been inducted into the army from 1993. Initially, they were brought in for 5 years of service under special entry scheme, which was then converted into short service commission. In 2008, permanent commission was extended to women in streams of judge, advocate, JSG, and Army Education Corps. We also have one more panelist, Oditi Patgiri from NPS International School. Welcome, Oditi. So,
Yes,
going Thank you, Aditi. Going ahead, last year in a landmark move, the Narendra Modi government decided to grant permanent commission to women in all 10 branches where they are inducted for short service commission, signals, engineers, army aviation, air defense, and electronics and mechanical engineers, army service corps, army ordnance corps, and intelligence. But women in frontline roles in the Indian Army is more than a romantic notion than an implementable idea is what suggested by a lot of media reports and also by a lot of journalists. Is this so? Let's start with Harsh. What are your views on this?
Well, before I put out my views, I'd like to say something. Every topic has two sides. It's like two sides of a coin, and there's the metal in between. We have to focus on everything. Omitting any one of these will leave vital flaws in our judgment. Like you said, women have been inducted into the army since 1992-93, but they're not put out in the combat roles with really weird and really annoying concerns, personally, I feel, which are very annoying concerns. They'd say that motherhood is a very important thing, childcare, and multiple other concerns which don't make much sense at the age that women go into the army. The average age for women to enter into the army is usually either before they start college at about the age of 19 or after college at the age of 25. At such a young age, motherhood or marriage is not a concern to these women. To them, motherhood and marriage and such other social constructs and concepts would come much later in their life. To them, their first duty is to their country and to the people of their country. The second point that I have is that the few things that the government raised in topics against women to have permanent commissions. So, an SCC or a short term commission is for 10 years. And after that, they can either take a 4 year extra service or be given the option of a permanent commission. Now, there haven't been a lot of women who have been given those permanent commissions. A few months back, only about 28 women were given permanent commissions, and as of February 2020, the Supreme Court has mandated the government of India to give all women the ability to choose a permanent commission if they wish to. I feel that that is a really good step in terms of equality and
Certainly.
cutting down discrimination at a central level in our country when it comes to equality and protecting it. Thank you.
That's nice, Yash. Also, you mentioned a great thing which I loved. It was you mentioned about being a mother and also having the responsibility of like parenting and also being a motherhood. So their first responsibility comes before that is the country, serving the nation, serving as you mentioned, as we have been taught from us since our childhood that India as a nation is a mother. Is a mother. We consider our nation as a mother. So considering that will be also there lies the responsibility of serving to the nation and being an active part of the nation and the nation's security and also looking for the threats of the nation. Shivani, what are your thoughts? Do you think it's a romantic notion or an implementable idea? as suggested by a lot of print medias?
I think it's an implemental idea rather than a romantic idea. As he said, it's considered that motherhood is one of the most important jobs of women, but I don't think it would be any more likable if our fathers came back in body bags. It doesn't make a difference whether it's a man or a woman who comes back. And more so, I don't see how women fighting in frontline positions is a romantic notion. I see how other Indian officers and even the most officers in developed countries of the world consider it lowly to be working under a woman. And that's something that the government and many other news channels feel is reason that women shouldn't be in frontline positions. But shouldn't we as a country be able to change their mindsets and allow them to think that women can be far more than just someone who takes domestic roles in the family?
Certainly. Ujiti, what are your views on this? Do you think are the women ready for serving as a combat roles in the armed forces?
Oh, yes, am I audible?
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's always a man when we think about army, like a man in battle dress and guns, and it's not women. Like, and it will take definitely time to bring this whole thing into a gender neutral idea. Like whenever we talk about a doctor or any other maybe engineer or teacher, it is a man or a woman. It's high time we bring this whole thing into a gender neutral. Uh, yeah, because see, it was 1958 when women started serving in army, be it logistics or in the medical corps. But now, see, I come from Assam, and I'm seeing that Assam Rifles recently, they there's a chance to the women to go for the search operations or mobile checkpoint. So see, the structure needs to be changed. Like even in schools, we have NCC for girls, right? So if we bring this grassroots level changes, I think it is definitely an implementable idea.
certainly. You figured out this thing of structure, changing the structure. I will be coming up to this point at a later point of time. But right now, as Harsh and Shivani focus on this part of about the the responsibility of a woman is to serve to be as a motherhood, and despite of the fact serving the motherhood is the primary role, but they can go for serving the nation as we have been known like the nation is a mother. But here it was this statement highlighted by the Narendra Modi government to the Supreme Court when it was figured out that why women aren't put on in combat roles in armed forces. They figured out this statement that they wouldn't be. There are like psychological limitations and domestic obligations. This was the statement which was put on by the Narendra Modi government. There are any psychological limitations and domestic obligations. So this was a statement. Do you feel this statement? What do you feel about this statement? Is it true? And is it true according to you? And what are your views to it? We can start with Shivani.
I believe that that is not true one bit. And if women have psychological limitations, so do men. Women are one of the most stronger creatures we have. We take care of our family, we go through childbirth, and more so, we're the backbone of the nation. Why would we be the ones who are termed to have psychological limitations? And I think that it's a very setback idea to claim that women can't be in frontline positions because they're mothers. Without mothers, we wouldn't have our country. And I feel that without this nation, we wouldn't be able to be taking care of our children either. So why shouldn't we be able to put our nation first rather than our domestic obligations? And I think that that's the mindset of most women today.
Certainly, I guess it highlights the stereotypical mindset which we are following since ages, where there is where the women have been put on and imagined in serving as a mother in the household chores, apart from serving the nation. It has been a stereotypical mindset, but we need to step out from the vision, and we have to make some changes. So Harsh, what are your views? Oditi, next to you. Harsh, what are your views according to this? Do you feel there are
So,
like any psychological limitations?
so psychological studies have shown that women are much more attuned to their emotions compared to men. They're much more sensitive. Yes, that's true. But like when people are sensitive or like sympathetic or even empathetic to other people, they can connect better. So that's why we see that women who are psychologists or are a psychiatrist, they would have a much more easier way, or easier, it would be much easier for them to connect to their clients and work with them. I think it's the same when it comes to the armed forces. Women are much more in tune with their emotions, and they're much more they'll be able to express that well to their seniors. And like she said, like, it's a stereotypical mindset of people to think that women should be like the roles in their house, it's domestic, it's just here, a small area, they're confined to it. But like she said, it's very important that we expand this to everywhere, because you can't claim that your constitution has one of the basic tenets of the Indian constitution is equality, right?
Yeah.
If you're not equal when it comes to protecting your country, how can you feel that they'd be equal when it comes to defending the country from the inside, working for your country, even if it's not in the army, navy, or the armed forces, or any even social service? How would you expect someone to think that it's equal for them to work a 9 to 5 job and like not expect equality over there? Then how do you expect them to have equality in like social services where the government itself, it's the mindset that needs to be changed. And that's what the armed forces do. They take people from all social standards, no matter how much education they have, no matter their monetary significance, no matter how much money they have in the bank. They're all put together through the same training, through the same conditioning, to have a similar mindset where they're open to everything and they're ready for everything as well.
Having the similar mindset of serving the nation and keeping yourself below the nation. That's the mindset they have been trying to develop as a part of the armed forces, being a part of the armed forces. Certainly true, Hush. And ODT, we would love to know, do you feel women in combat is just an utopian idea? As we have heard from Harsh and Shivani, they're like, we are getting to know that there are no psychological limitations. And Harsh highlighted this point about women are certainly sensitive, and also they can take up charges, and they can also turn up aggressive. They can also turn up aggressive and are perfect to be in the combat roles in armed forces. So what do you think? Are women in combat is just an utopian idea? Okay, I guess we are facing some network issues from ODT's side. Shivani, would you like to go with this?
Um, I'd like to say that it is a utopian idea, but we as a country strive to make the world a better place and whatnot. So shouldn't allowing women to work in frontline positions be something that we must take as a necessary step for the betterment of our country, regardless of whether it's a utopian idea or not? And moreover, we're not as a government, as a country, we're not assuring women's safety in the military, especially when women do get the courage to come and join the military. There's a lot of issues that occur, such as rape and just discrimination in general, that put down women. And unless we make that better, I don't see how women themselves would be willing to take frontline positions in the military.
Okay, so fighting against the discrimination, fighting against the odds would give them the chance to basically represent themselves in the combat roles in armed forces, and also empowering them. I guess that as a society, as a part of the society, we can together work out to empower the most from our side. We can empower the women to come to these frontline positions. I guess that's a nice point you have highlighted. And as I mentioned, like since 1993, women have been inducted in the armed forces, but into the armed forces, but they are not been a part of the combat roles. So are is there is a point of conviction, or is there is a point of sense of doubt? Are we still not convinced with their capabilities? Is this the case, Harsh?
So when you talk about women's capabilities, I think a very important point, like you said before, right? They have to face the social discrimination, the social injustice. They may be sexually or physically violated. This is something that no matter how much you work against or how much you work for the betterment of the country will always occur. There will always be a few cases which happen no matter what. Like you said, right? So a few points that we may put against this is that one of those, we need to change the men's mindset first, to allow them, to let them think in a way that it's okay for them to take orders from a woman. I mean, your teachers are women, right? A majority of all teachers in India are women, and people and if people listen to them, they don't have any problems with that. Then why would you have a problem with a woman telling you down the line, like 20 years down the line, what to do in the army? You could consider them a teacher. They have a lot more experience than you. They know a lot more. They've learned life. They've seen life. They've seen things you haven't. They've experienced things you haven't. So I think like that's a good point that we could put, that women, like females, I think that's a better way to say it. Females are a part of our life no matter what. Like it's literally half the world. How could you say that they're not? And then when you say that in the army they face discrimination against men, it's a weird way of thinking.
Certainly, as you mentioned about the men should understand that women, if they are giving some orders, so they should accept it. And as a part of the as a being a part of the patriarchal society we have, which we have in India. So this case is like men think as if they are taking orders from women, it's a defaming. They think it as a defame, and also they are a bit of reluctant. They show the resistance towards this. So I guess I completely agree with this. Where as a part together we can try out to empower the women, and as a man you should be responsible and you shouldn't think about show your resistance to others to achieve and also to receive orders. I guess that's a good point you've highlighted. And also there is this point, as you Harsh, you were mentioning about the showing the reluctance from the men. Also a lot of men think about, a lot of people think about women are mentally and physically weaker. But we have to since ages we have seen women being part of lot of missions, lot of being part of as a part of special agents, and also in the paramilitary forces. As Oditi mentioned about in northeast region, there are a lot of women being part of the special operations. So is this the case that they're mentally and physically weaker? Oditi, what do you feel about it?
It's not only about army, earlier women were not allowed in many sectors, but see, time has changed and women has shown tremendous interest in the defense as well now. And also we see a lot of women working in, different agents, secret agents and operations. And also if we see like even uneducated women, they work in this, stone breaking thing and everything. So it's not. Am I audible?
Yeah, Oditi.
Yeah, so as you know, while researching for this, I came across many tweets, and the people were writing that, what if some other countries shoulder, capture our women? But it is a problem with the psychology. Why don't we teach men to not do anything wrong with women, and rather than, just telling women to not join army? So it is all about psychology, and a proper training can definitely help.
Certainly. During the first when Oditi was mentioning about changing the standards of training, as she mentioned about highlighted about the incorporation of NCC in the schools and colleges where women are equally being allowed to be a part of it. And if we change, we all know how rigorous the training is in the Indian military academy, and how our corps, basically how the paramilitary forces and all the soldiers go on a rigorous training. So if we change the standards of training for the women so that they can easily cope up with the domestic obligations, and if we think of that, are we going to compromise the national security? What do you think? Are we going to compromise the national security? Yeah, Harsh, we can start with you.
I mean, it's but obvious. Like if you lower the bar for anyone, no matter the circumstances, you're not only you're sacrificing what you could have had better, right? So let's take an example. There are like 10 women today, and they're put through the same training course as men are. And out of that, only around 6 or 7 pass. Now, what this will give to you is that you have 6 or 7 of the best candidates possible out of those 10, right? And then you would have more further training and a few would leave or like drop, right? So in the end, you would have a small group of elite soldiers or elite candidates to go forth in their in their specific fields. But if
Yeah.
you lower the bar for women, what you're doing is that first of all you're considering them inferior to men, saying that they cannot pass these things, which is basically not being equal to them. And second of all, what that's doing is that that's demeaning to women as well, right? Because if they find out, they know that the standard is lower for us. So there's one of two things that could happen, right? One, they think that it's very simple for them and they take it for granted, the post that they've been given, and not like appreciate it enough. Or the second thing that could happen is that they feel alienated towards the Indian armed forces and the Indian government, because they feel that as women, we are more than capable of doing what the men do and doing it better. Then why are we being put down? Why are we not given the equal opportunities? So again, like Uditi said multiple times, and so did you, it's about changing the mindset. A basic change has to take place from the ground up, and then only will we see a change in the upper stratas of the government and the army.
So then changing the mindsets is much needed thing rather than changing the standards. I guess that's the thing. And also, as you mentioned about the motivation can be shaken up if the standards of the training is changed and people consider them inferior. So I guess rather changing this thing, changing the standards, we should focus on changing the mindset and how we can more empower it. But during this process, I guess I can conclude from your statement that we need not to change the standards. We need not to change the standards in order to encourage them. Shivani, do you also have similar views or you have a different opinion?
I agree entirely with everything Harsh said. And to elaborate more, when we're lowering the standards for the candidates we take in, we're just endangering their lives in the future because they're going to be illy equipped for the challenges that are definitely going to face them when they're in the front line. So I feel that we're just setting up women for more failure and proving the points of all sources today that claim that women can't be in frontline forces. And when we're talking about domestic duties must definitely be compromised in order for the welfare of our nation. And women have to be willing to do that, which they most definitely are. So I don't see how that's a concern.
Yeah, certainly. About mentioning about endangering their lives and risking their lives if they're not well prepared for the if they're not well prepared for the operations and if they haven't gone through the rigorous training, so they are not prepared. So this is a much needed point. I guess we should also focus on this thinking. If they are not prepared, they are going to risk their lives to fight back in the operation in the tough situations. So we have got an exciting question from the audience. I would like to propose this to the panelists. CDS late Sri Bipin Rawat, we have heard about his news, was a big proponent of women in army. So what are your views from this panelist? Harsh, we can start with you. Yeah.
So I haven't read a lot about him, but from the minimal research that I did upon the topic, I found out that he wasn't strongly opinionated about having them in combat roles, but he was strongly opinionated about having women in the army in a general sense. And I think I agree with his view that once you bring them into the army as general sense, right? So if you look at a few statistics right now, there's only about 0.56 percentage of women in the army who are officers, and the Navy and Air Forces, respectively, have 6.5 and 1.8 percentage of women who are officers. And there are only a few women who are pilots in the Indian Air Force. There's about 7 to 12, if I'm not incorrect.
Yeah.
So, right. So you'd have to first bring a change into getting them into the army in the first place. And like you said, right, if we as a society empower these women to go into the army and we tell them that it's okay for them to forsake some, if not all, some of their domestic duties, right? Because no matter what, if you have a family, both sexes have some obligations, right? If you're working as a male in the army, you still have obligations to send money home to keep everyone alive, to keep everyone warm with food in their bellies. It's the same with women. It's no different. So yeah, if they don't, and even if you tell them that it's okay, it's women themselves who have to take that leap of faith into going into the army. So only when you create a suitable environment for them to be inducted in, or for them to volunteer, then only can we bring a change into bringing them into the front lines in the combat roles.
Great. I guess that was nicely summarized. Harsh, Shivani, what are your views on this?
So, as I stated, Bipin Rawat was someone who stood strongly for accepting women into the army. But at the same note, he was also someone who was against putting women in frontline positions. He brought up issues like maternity and whatnot. He was someone who infantilized women in the public eye many, many times. But more so, he also believed that women should be given the opportunity to compromise their domestic needs and come fight in the army. And that is something that we as a nation still stand very strongly for.
Great, Shivani. So as you guys mentioned, I guess Manish must have got his views and the answer which he was looking from you guys, and we can rightly conclude it from the fact that women are ready for the combat roles in Indian armed forces. It's like the encouragement, and as Harsh mentioned, we should create the enough situation and the environment, the proper environment where we can induct them for the combat roles, and we need not to change the standards of the training, but the however rigorous it would be, they are ready to come, they are ready to be a part of it. So it's like we have to change the mindset, and that's the much needed part, and being a part of them, motivating them to be up, motivating them to come forward for the national security and risking their lives is what we are looking for. So nice talking with you guys, Harsh, Shivani, Oditi. We are nice talking with you guys. I guess it was an incredible discussion. We have got good points. Oditi, we can start with you. Any ending words you want to share?
Sorry, sir, but I couldn't hear you properly. Can you repeat?
Yeah, any ending notes you want to share? I guess while Oditi joins in, Harsh, would you want to share any ending notes?
I don't have anything significant to say, but in the end, I would like to say is that if we want any change to occur in our society as a whole, especially with this topic, right? It's an entire mindset shift for everyone in India. Also, another interesting point, a lot of our allies allow women to go and fight in the front lines. Why not us?
Yeah, certainly.
I forgot. So, like a lot of our allies have had that mindset shift, like developed countries like the United States, the UK, Australia, Russia, they've all had that mindset shift. They've already had that phase where they've accepted that women are going to go fight in the front lines. And we have to respect that. We have to bring that mindset change to India. And it is coming. It's slow, but it's coming. And we have to wait for that until that change has occurred on a drastic level. Nothing's going to change in our armed forces, and that change first has to happen with the women, the men, and then only can you expect to see it in our government officials.
Great. Yeah, certainly. And as you mentioned about this fact that if our allies are ready to accept them and the combat roles, why we not? So that's a nice point we have highlighted. Shivani, what are your ending notes?
Yes, I agree. I think that if we as a nation have it in ourselves to curb toxic masculinity at its roots, then we can finally allow women to take more avid positions in their workforce, and we should bring up measures that allow women to be just as safely respected and protected as they are in their homes in the military. And only then will we be able to see change in all our mindsets and the countries.
Great. Changing the mindset is the most needed thing. Oditi, is your connection good?
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as I said, that women have crossed, various milestones. And, when we want to make a change, we definitely can't expect women to be there in just one day. Some root level, grassroots level changes are to be made. And I think,
Thank you, Aditya. I guess there was a network issue. We couldn't hear you much, but we have got your points. Like there should be a grassroots level change. That's a much needed thing. Thank you guys for joining in for today's discussion. As it mentioned, it was like a lot of interesting viewpoints we could gather around. And thanks for joining in, all the people who have joined in on a Zoom platform and also on our YouTube. I hope you enjoyed and you have received some mixed reviews and different perspective from this panelist. Thank you guys for joining in. See you guys in the next session at next Saturday at 5 p.m. Thank you guys.